You're listening to Self-Conscious with Chrissy Teigen, an Audible original podcast. Join me as we explore the cutting edge of health, wellness, and personal growth with the world's leading experts and thinkers. From inspiring stories to actionable insights, our conversations aim to help you lead a healthier, happier, and more productive life. In times of anxiety or crisis, it's natural to seek comfort. The post-pandemic era is defined by a constant tug-of-war between normalcy and fear. Outside, the world feels uncertain and scary. Inside, it's safe, familiar, and predictable. We binge-watch The Office endlessly on repeat, order gluttonous meals via DoorDash, and have everything we desire delivered to our doorsteps within 24 hours. Remote work has eliminated the need to even get dressed in the morning, as our own offices now sit just steps from our beds. This cocooned existence has become the new normal for many, safe, convenient, and sealed off from the outside world. But at what cost? We're facing soaring rates of depression, obesity, isolation, and a profound disconnect from the natural world. Despite all our technology and luxury, we seem to be less happy, less healthy, and less resilient than ever before. It's the comfort that's killing us. What if true physical, mental, and spiritual health lies in embracing discomfort instead? That's the premise of my next guest, investigative journalist and best-selling author Michael Easter. In his 2021 book, The Comfort Crisis, Easter explores how modern comforts and conveniences contribute to some of our most pressing issues, like heart disease, diabetes, depression, and a loss of purpose. His findings suggest that by engaging with a few evolutionary discomforts, we can dramatically improve our well-being. In his Audible original series, Embrace Discomfort, Easter explains how modern visionaries are harnessing the power of discomfort to push their limits, reclaim their health, and rediscover their potential. Listeners are invited on a journey that challenges the status quo and offers actionable insights into how embracing discomfort can lead to a profound personal transformation. Michael Easter, welcome to Self-Conscious. You argue that we are in the midst of a comfort crisis. What does that mean?
When you look at how life has changed day to day for the average person, we're far more comfortable than we were in the past. So when you look at how humans lived in the past, we were 14 times more active than we are today. We are exposed to different temperatures, right? Cold and heat. Mm-hmm. We lived outside. The average person today only walks 4,000 steps a day. We spend 93% of our time indoors. We live at 72 degrees. All these things are great. It's a result of progress, right? We want to be comfortable, but at the same time, by only being comfortable, by always doing the next most comfortable thing, I think you tend to find that people develop different diseases, sicknesses. I don't think it's great for our mental health because we know that everything from exercise to taking on challenges, that really improves people's mental health and gives them a sense of purpose and meaning in life. And so by being willing to do these things that you don't necessarily want to do, you learn something about yourself and what you're capable of. And by removing that, I think we find ourselves in trouble sometimes.
4,000 steps. I'm stuck on that. I would be so curious. I actually have an Apple Watch that I don't even put on because I'm like, I don't want to know the results. I don't really ever leave this compound of ours very often. When I do, I love it because you're right, the sense of joy and pride that I get from going outside, experiencing something. Yes, maybe I'm like riddled with anxiety if I do go out, but I'm always so proud of myself when I do it, especially with all 4 children, or I know that when I leave the house with John and there's going to be a different vibe of people around us. So I have to mentally prep for that. But yeah, I stay really holed up in here, which is why we're doing all of this here in my literal bedroom.
Time outside is one of the best things you can do for your mental health. And it's literally right outside your door. So there's different doses of time in nature that seem to have different effects. So for example, even as little as 20 minutes in your backyard, if there's trees back there, that's associated with these big decreases in stress, increases in happiness and productivity, and it's free. Yeah. It's like anyone can do that. Yeah. It's like we try to overcomplicate these things, and I think one of my big arguments is that if you just look at how humans lived for all of time, you can learn a lot of lessons about how you should live today. We evolved outdoors. We're meant to be outdoors. That's like what is in our DNA. And now we live inside 93% of the time.
How does our obsession with instant gratification and convenience impact our long-term physical and mental health?
What technology does is it makes your life easier and more effortless. right? In the past, if you wanted to get from point A to point B, you had to walk. Then we invent the bicycle. Oh, this is better, right?
Yeah.
Then we invent the car. And now we can just sit there and do that. But you put this at a big scale, and what we've done is we've really systematically removed effort from our lives, which, don't get me wrong, this is good in the grand scheme of time and space. But if you don't find a way to replace that, becomes a problem. Mm-hmm. So I'll repeat the stat I said before. It's that our ancestors were 14 times more active than us. 14 times. You look at what people did for all of time. So for scientists to figure this out, like how did humans live for most of time, they'll study hunter-gatherer tribes and just watch how they live. And these people are walking more than 20,000 steps a day. Along the way, they're carrying things. When they want to sit, we don't have chairs. So we're in the squatting position. Mm-hmm. There's 80-year-old women who will go out and literally pick a bunch of potatoes and carry them over this rough ground back to camp. Mm-hmm. It's like life demanded physical activity. Inactivity is a toxin. And if you want to buffer that toxin, you have to be active.
I look at the way my mom lives. My mom just recently moved back to Thailand. She lives in a smaller city up north. And you look around and the amount of constant movement and work that people are doing all the time outside, it feels like just us as a country. We have to be the number one most stagnant country, right?
We're definitely up there.
So discuss with me some of the tricks that ultra runners might use to push through exhaustion and physical pain. And then tell me the larger message for those of us that will never, ever run 100 miles.
Yeah. So part of my series, we talked to ultra runners. We're also going to talk to some people who've gone through military special forces. Basically, people who do things that are physically challenging for a long period of time. How did they get through it? You got a million reasons to not do that. Your brain's screaming at you to stop. And I think what I learned looking into this and talking to scientists is that when you feel fatigue when you're exercising, it's actually not that your muscles are super tired. Fatigue is actually an emotion. So it's this emotion that basically tells you, hey, you need to slow down. This sucks. This is no fun. It's your brain trying to protect your body from going too hard and injuring something. But this governor that we have is set to super safe mode. You're going to stop well before you're actually truly fatigued. And when you look at people who are able to do these crazy physical feats, they're able to disconnect from that emotion and go, oh, this is just an emotion. I actually have a lot more left and I'm going to survive. It's not going to get worse and worse and worse until I explode. I can sit here. We interpret sensations of our body through a certain lens. Let's say your legs are kind of tight. If you're exercising, you're like, oh man, this sucks. My legs are tight. If you're having sex, that's great, right? But it's the exact same sensation. So they go through this sort of mental story. And what happens when you do physically challenging things is your brain kind of tells yourself this story, this absolutely sucks. But it is still a story. So if you can realize it's a story, I think to bring this to the average person who's not going to go run 100 miles, going to have sex, yes, hopefully, realize that it goes through the story and you can always question the story and be like, okay, what is actually happening here though? I'm telling myself this is bad, but what actually is it? It's just like, oh, my legs just feel like a little bit tight. Is it the end of the world? No. You can kind of disconnect from those feelings, and that can allow you to push on, because when exercise starts to be hard, people are like, I'm out of here. This is no good. But if you can get through that, you can go farther. And I think most people have this moment, and this definitely happens with me. Like if I start a run, the first mile or two are the worst. And then you eventually hit this little point where it's like, oh, I feel great now.
I hear about that. Never experienced it, but I've heard stories. In the section about Dr. Trevor Cashy, he discusses our behavior around food, unpack his central message and how we can benefit from his thinking.
For my work as a journalist, I have to talk to a lot of smart people. And Trevor's definitely the smartest person I've ever talked to by far. He graduated college at 17, PhD at 22. Brilliant. Also looks like a Hell's Angel, which is surprising. When I first met him, I'm picturing the glasses with a lab coat. Nope. He's 6'3" and giant with a beard and tats. And so fascinating because we have diets, right? Quote unquote diets. And diets are, eat this thing instead of that thing. Don't eat carbs. Carbs are bad. Don't eat fat. Fat is bad. If you're paleo diet, it's like, don't eat foods that weren't around for cavemen. Those foods are bad. There's all these narratives, right?
Yeah, that's a real thing. I know a lot of people on it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Well, no, be a caveman. Be a full caveman.
It's great. Sponsored by Caveman Food. And when you look at the success of diets, it's 98% of them fail. And most people quit at about 5 weeks. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is that you start to get hungry. Being hungry is uncomfortable. But the second part is that they're really complicated. If you're used to eating like a average American and now you got to eat like a caveman from 50,000 years ago, that's a big change.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stress. And what makes Trevor so fascinating is that when he starts working with clients, all he has them do not change what you eat. Don't change anything. All I want you to do is figure out what you eat and how much. So he'll be like, all right, write down everything you eat. Don't change it. Write down everything you eat. Weigh your portions so you know what a portion is. You're just going to do this for a couple weeks. And people are like, I just paid you a bunch of money and you're telling me to eat what I already eat, basically. It's like, just do the weighing. Don't do anything else. And what tends to happen is that this effect that researchers call the observer effect or the Hawthorne effect, it kicks in. And it basically states that the minute you observe a behavior, the behavior starts to change. So researchers started figuring this out by observing factory workers. They were trying to track productivity of these guys on a factory line. And so what do you think happens when you're a factory worker and you know this person is watching you work? You work harder. Exactly. So just simply observing a behavior will usually lead it to change. And in the case of the people that Trevor works with, they will usually start to portion out food and weigh a portion and go, oh my God, this, what I thought was 1 portion of peanut butter is actually 5. And therefore more calories than I thought. And the reality is most people have no idea how much they eat. The average person, they overestimate or underestimate what they eat in a day, about 500 to 1,000 calories. So simply putting an eye on that, people naturally begin to shift what they eat in a really beneficial way that also doesn't lead them having to adopt some crazy rule like eat like a caveman or don't ever eat a carb or whatever. And he's gotten people to lose more than 100 pounds simply by observing what they eat.
Matt Sherman's experiences in nature highlight the mental and physical benefits of spending time outdoors. How does nature help us reconnect with our primal instincts and well-being?
Matt's one of the longest serving people in the Iraq and Afghanistan war. He was a diplomat, and they sent him out to go talk to warlords. And if you met him, you wouldn't expect it. But he's the most likable guy ever. That's why he was good as a diplomat. So he spends all this time in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he gets home, and he's been paid rather well over there, and he hasn't spent a dime. And he's, what am I going to do with my time? And he starts hiking. And so he's now hiked, I think, nearly 30,000 miles around the world. He just goes and hikes for months at a time. He really shows the value of spending time outdoors. He's the most sage, calm, cool, collected guy. And a time in nature can make all of us a little bit that way. So I mentioned before that even just 20 minutes outside is really good for mental health. But there's this larger concept that is called the nature pyramid. And it's like the food pyramid, right? But instead of saying eat this much meat, it tells you how much time you should spend in different types of nature. So at the bottom is the 20 minutes outside, just backyard, tree-lined street, whatever it is, 3 times a week. Next up is 5 hours a month in the type of nature that has trails. You still get cell reception. It's a little more wild than your backyard, but not totally off the grid. And then at the top is 3 days in the backcountry or somewhere really remote every single year. And what that top pinnacle does, researchers have found extended time in nature is super good for mental health. So what happens is that people's brains start to ride what are called alpha waves. And these are the same waves that are found in really experienced meditators. So it leads to calm, I love the world and everyone in it. You see your life differently. You're a lot more creative. All these amazing things happen. And they also tend to last. So it doesn't just wash away when you get home. And so I think that kind of provides like this easy, accessible thing that people can do each year to leverage the power in nature.
Hey, it's Chrissy. Feeling today's conversation? Dig deeper with today's guest and hear more from all our groundbreaking guests on Audible. From bestsellers and new releases to podcasts and Audible originals, Discover the next step on your journey. For a limited time, new customers can go to audible.com/Chrissy on Audible to get your first 3 months for only 99 cents a month. Johanse Bolden speaks about the importance of new experiences and uncertainty in finding meaning. Why do you think embracing uncertainty is crucial for personal growth?
So Johanse is this special forces soldier. He goes and fights wars, more or less. And what's interesting is that he's talked to me about war is obviously hell. But at the same time, he said there's something meaning-giving about it in the sense that it thrusts you into the present. There is nothing that is going to make you more present than being in a war zone because you don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's the most uncertain environment ever. There are people on the other side who want to kill you. Anything could kill you. So you have to be totally present and focused in the moment. And that presence and focus is one of the things that ultimately makes people really happy. That is what all people who meditate are chasing. That same thing. And once Johanse gets out of the military, you go back to this world that's very predictable and very certain. And that's not necessarily easy, right? Because you've been tuned into this world where you were just so in it and focused. And it was because it was kinetic and dangerous. You go back home and everything's predictable. So I think Johanse said, okay, how do I get that thing that gives me a sort of that presence, that focus, and that sense of meaning without having to go to war? His answer is that he's really just leaned into doing totally new, out there, wacky things. And when you think about our day-to-day life, it's very easy to do the same things over and over, right? If you're anything like me, you get up at a certain time, I start to write, then I go drive the same route to get a coffee. I listen to the same damn band every day. I go back, I write more. I take my dog for a walk. I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm going to have dinner. Like,
clockwork,
repeat.
Yep, Groundhog Day.
Yeah. But when you do the same thing over and over, you're not as present. And that's simply because you've done the thing, you know what's coming, and you can just be lost in your noggin.
What you were saying reminds me, like children, they're so resilient. They push themselves. Yeah. They're okay doing something new, looking weird, feeling awkward, and they just have that like fire and power within them at such a young age. So this is a learned behavior that we get into as adults because we weren't like this as children.
Totally.
We were able to have so much fun and freedom. And I look at my kid and how many different activities they're in and all the different random groups of people they have to meet all the time. And they're excited and they're happier because they meet all these different people and they're doing these different activities that they don't have any idea if they're good at. And I look at them and I'm like, man, I couldn't imagine putting myself as an adult in those scenarios that they do every single day. So
yeah, it's like they haven't yet figured out that they should be self-conscious.
Yes,
like us.
Exactly. Exactly. So what is a Misogi and how is it connected to the hero's journey?
Yeah, so Misogi is this idea that I learned from a guy, Marcus Elliott. And he's a sports scientist who has contracts with all these different leagues. Really smart guy. Really good at getting people to be better in life and perform better. And so the idea of a Misogi is that once a year, you're going to go out into nature and you're going to do something really challenging. You should have a 50-50 shot at finishing whatever your Misogi task is. And the reason this is important goes back to how humans evolved. We used to have to do hard things all the time. You had to hunt your own food. You go on these big epic hunts that had a high chance of failure. You would have to move from summering to wintering grounds. There were tigers. And each time that you would take on a challenge like that, you would learn something about yourself. You would get thrust to the edge where you're like, man, this is really hard. I don't know if I can do this, but you do it. And that's the ultimate great teacher. You have to put yourself in this position where you have doubt, but then you overcome it, and now you're better than you thought. One of the issues with modern life is that we're not challenged the way we used to be. We can have a roof over our head, water, whatever. We're not really challenged like that. But we lose something about being human. If you think of human potential as a big circle around us, it's easy to sit in this space right here because you haven't been forced out to the edges ever. Life doesn't necessarily force you out to the edges. When you get to the edges, it's where they expand and your potential grows. So the idea of Misogi is go out and see what you can do.
So if you are in the 50% that fails at it, what does that do for you then? Because that still has to be good for you. Yeah.
It's definitely still good for you. Because I guarantee you can take that back into your life and that'll change your behavior. And so to connect it to the hero's journey, it's if you look at all myths from all these different societies around the world, and even traditional rites of passage from all these different cultures around the world, they all follow that same basic trajectory. We're going to take a person who has had normalcy in life, maybe a little stagnant, and we're going to throw them out to do something really challenging and really hard. And they're going to learn out there. And they're going to grow as a human. And when they come back to our tribe, if it's a rite of passage, they're going to be a better person because they've learned about what they're capable of through doing something hard. Like, challenge is the ultimate teacher. And if you don't face it and you don't embrace it, I think that it can limit you.
For me, I wouldn't even know because my capability, I have no idea what it would be. I don't think I can run a mile nonstop without walking for a little bit. Would mine be, so do I have a 50-50 chance of doing the mile, or should I push it to 2 mile, or do I say half a mile? What's my 50-50 then?
What do you think? Do you think you could maybe do, like maybe? No, you couldn't do 2.
I would be without walking for a little bit.
Like, you could slow down, but you're continuing to run. Too much hesitation, 2 miles is your Misogi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Try it. See how it goes.
How does the idea of being a 2%er challenge our habitual choices, and what impact can that mindset have on our lives?
One of the studies that I think has most just impacted my life and changed how I think about humans and how we improve found the following statistic. 2. That is the percent of people who take the stairs when there's also an escalator. Now, 100% of those people knew that taking the stairs would be better for them, right? Yet 98% of people choose to do the easy thing. And so why is that? I think it goes back to how humans evolved. So in the past, it didn't make sense to expend any extra calories, right? Food was hard to find. You wanted to stay safe. It paid to be lazy and do the next easiest, most comfortable thing. Still today, we have that same DNA that tells us do the next easiest, most comfortable thing, but our world has very much changed, right? We have escalators, we have Uber, we have the moving walkway, we have delivery, we have Uber Eats, on and on. And so there's this mismatch where our environment isn't necessarily set up to make us happy and healthy. But if you can take the mindset, I'm going to be a 2%er. I'm going to take the stairs. That to me is like the ultimate metaphor for how do you live well today. Mentioned earlier, like I think living well today requires embracing short-term discomfort to get a long-term benefit.
Okay, so give me all the little ways then. Let's talk about some small, little practical steps people can start to embrace discomfort in manageable ways.
Simple, easy ways. We just covered take the steps. And I'm going to give you a lot of information and you're going to be like, that couldn't do anything. That couldn't do anything. Again, once these things start to add up, holy hell, it's a huge game changer. The problem is that people often dive into heroics, right? I'm going to improve my fitness. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an hour CrossFit class, whatever.
Yes. Big things.
Big, giant things. And that often leads to burnout. And we also don't realize that there are so many smaller opportunities throughout the day. Take the stairs, carry your groceries. If you sit at a desk and make phone calls, go for a walk and take that call. If you don't have to be in front of your screen, go for a walk. If you have to walk your dogs every day, you could throw on a slightly weighted pack that'll allow you to get a little bit more out of every single step, and you'll be healthier for it. Call your friends instead of text them from time to time. Embrace hunger every now and then. Right, you'll probably learn that hunger isn't an emergency. It's okay to be bored. Embrace boredom. Not only is it okay to be bored, it's actually beneficial to be bored. So the average person today spends more than 13 hours a day on digital media. 13
hours a day.
13 hours on average. That's from all our digital devices. So if you think about that in terms of the human mind, we didn't have any of that shit in our life for all of time, and now it's literally become our lives. So the quote that I like around that is from this guy, William James, who's considered like the father of American psychology. Old, dead, very smart guy, basically. And he said that at the end of your life is basically a collection of what you paid attention to. 13 hours a day, right? That is so much attention. And I'm not saying that stuff is bad at all. I think there's a lot of great stuff out there. But I am saying, does 13 hours seem like a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are you really remembering from that shit that you just scrolled through for 13 hours? What's really sticking with you? Anything? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Go outside more. That's just like such an easy one. It's right outside your back door. I'm just going outside.
Basically mirror what your kids are doing.
Yeah, mirror what you're doing.
If I started doing that, oh my God, my life would change so much. And now for the toolkit. Each episode, our guests distill their expertise into practical and actionable insights. Today, Michael Easter helps us embrace the benefits of discomfort.
Okay, the exercise we are doing is called rucking. Now, that is just a complicated word for what is basically walking with weight. Okay. It's just getting some weight, putting it in a backpack, and going for a walk. Okay. So you are wearing a 20-pound backpack.
Is this a rucksack? Is that where that comes from?
That's exactly where rucksack comes from.
Okay.
Yeah. How does it feel?
The second I put it on, it pulled my shoulders back in a way that I've been needing for such a long time. And I bought all the little gadgets to do that, but all I needed was this, apparently.
Yeah. So really good for posture is one thing.
I'm very I sleep like this. I live my day very small. So it's so different.
Yeah, it just opens you up. And it can actually be really good for back pain because it puts your back in a better position. Now, the big takeaway, though, is that you can think about it as strength and cardio in one. Mm-hmm. So if you're just walking, you're getting cardio. If you're just running, you're getting cardio. If you're in the gym, you're lifting weight, you're just getting strength. But because you are walking, covering ground as you have a weight in your pack, you're stimulating both your heart and lungs, but you're also working your muscles. Mm-hmm. And so you're getting more out of every single step. And the thing that I really love about it is it's very approachable. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a backpack at home. And if you're going to go on a walk, you can just toss 10, 20, whatever amount of pounds.
What is this weight that you have, though? I've never seen a rectangular weight.
It's a special weight for rucking. But you can use anything. Okay. People can use bags of sand. People have used bricks. You can buy weight plates online. Mm-hmm. And you get more out of every step. So it tends to burn anywhere from 30 to 300% more calories than walking. It also preserves muscle and burns fat. So it burns more fat than just walking alone while preserving your muscle.
I can't imagine when you're actually moving because already I feel it.
And then the other big one, and this is especially important for women, is that it improves bone density. Mm-hmm. So after women hit menopause, their bones start to lose density. Mm-hmm. And if you break a arm or a leg, it's more likely to happen. But if you break a hip in particular when you're older, that's almost a death sentence. You have a 30% chance of dying in the next 6 months. If your bones are denser and you fall, they can take a hit and you'll be better off. And this activity is probably the number one thing you can do for bone density.
I feel so tired already. I can tell that even though I do Pilates and things and you try to target as many little muscles as possible, this is different.
Yeah, just go for a walk. You can just throw that on if you're walking with your kids, if you're walking your dogs, whatever you're doing. It's just a way to add a little bit more discomfort into your life that's going to benefit it.
I like it a lot. I really do. And especially women, we carry everything on one side for our whole lives. Our purses, our babies, everything. I never moved my baby to this side. I nursed on this side. I did everything on my right side. So I'm feeling a different kind of soreness on each side. And it's enjoyable soreness, though. I like it.
Yeah, that's good. Good soreness. That's what we want. Yeah. So I tell people start with anywhere from 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. Just put some weight in the bag and see how it feels, and then just go on your normal walk.
What's your weight for your sack?
That was a personal question.
How much weight is in your rucksack?
I usually use 30 pounds.
Holy shit.
So 30 pounds. Yeah, and some people go crazy. So I tell people don't ever go above 50. There's no reason to do that. Some people try and be a hero.
You don't want to injure yourself.
Yeah, your risk of injury goes up over 30.
Have perspiration developing. It's really interesting.
Perspiration is developing. Yeah.
Michael Easter, thank you for joining me today on Self-Conscious. Michael Easter's Embrace Discomfort is available on Audible. Until then, tune in, turn on, and feel better. This is Chrissy Teigen, and you've been listening to Self-Conscious, an Audible original podcast. This has been an Audible original, produced by Audible and Huntley Productions. Hosted by Chrissy Teigen, executive producer for Huntley Productions, Chrissy Teigen. Executive producer for Audible, Stacey Creamer. Recorded and engineered by Alex Guy. Mixed and mastered by Jeremiah Zimmerman. Edited by Lisa Orkin. Head of Creative Development at Audible, Kate Navin. Chief Content Officer, Rachel Giazza. Copyright 2024 by Audible Originals, LLC. Sound recording copyright 2024 by Audible Originals, LLC.